Hello everyone, it's Alex from BoardGameCo over here, and today I am talking to Austin from Ivy Games, and it is apparently pronounced Ivy Games. Thank you, Austin, for that. And we are talking about Veiled Fate, the Kickstarter, which I did a video last week. You should definitely watch that, and if you haven't, well, you should watch that. But basically, we're here to talk about Veiled Fate, all things Veiled Fate, the game, the campaign. Most particularly, I would say, before we get into anything else, I want to know, like, Ivy Games has me baffled because you guys are an animation studio, right?
Yeah.
So why board games? How did that happen?
So this is actually a story I tell a lot, and I'm still amazed that it happened, to be perfectly honest with you. So I was the agency liaison. I would go to ad agencies and try to show them our animation and get them to hire us to make other animation. And over a Christmas break, I went to one of the owner's house, and we were both huge board game nerds. And we were playing games, and we were like, well, what would it be like to prototype our own game? And that's actually the night that Moonrakers started. We came up with the core concept of that. So I came in January, 5th or whatever it is when work started again. And I had my year meeting, and they sat me down and they were like, hey, instead of being agency liaison, what would you think about running like a board games division of the studio? And I honestly was just kind of like speechless because that sounded like something I never considered could be an option for a job. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds wonderful. And so that started the 2-year journey really of what Moonrakers was. And it was a very rocky start. I had no idea what I was doing. I think my initial recommendation month 3 was we should stop this and I should go back to agency liaison.
Wait, so you said January was when this happened. When was and how long down the road was the Moonrakers campaign?
I think that was January 2018, and then we initially did the concept in December of 2017, and then the first Kickstarter was in September of 19. And we just delivered Moonrakers last month,
Nice.
or end of last month, beginning of this
So
month.
you had like a solid year and a half from inception to Kickstarter. Cool.
Yep. It was a long journey, but it was really, really enlightening on just how much goes into making a game.
So when did Veiled Fate begin?
So actually, we were driving back from our Moonrakers live play with Dice Tower in Florida. We were driving to the airport, me and Zach were, and we were like, okay, that was like the very end of the campaign. I think there was like 2 or 3 days left on the campaign, and we were like, so what's next? What are we gonna do next? And with Moonrakers, we kind of started with a feeling. It was what would it be like to make a game that felt like going on space missions with your friends? And the feeling that we kind of were like, it would be cool to make a game that was all about hiding in plain sight. We had played a game, it was a video game called Hidden in Plain Sight, so right there in the name. And you controlled people on screen, but you were the only person that knew which one you were, and you had to kind of hide among the other players and NPCs. And we were like, is there a way to take that experience to a board game? And that was kind of the initial concepting for that. So we started working on it in September of 2019 and then launched in October of 2020. So about a year, a little over a year. It was interesting to be developing a game during COVID lockdown. We ended up really benefiting from our community that we had from Moonrakers. I don't think it would have been possible without them being our playtesters on Tabletop Simulator, because we did all the playtesting for Moonrakers in person, and very little of the playtesting for Veiled Fate was able to be done in person because of COVID. So that was very, very different.
Gotcha. And so you said like basically, so you experiment with board games. You came back and they're like, start a board game studio, which again, dream job. But aside from that, like how many of you are board gamers?
Oh yeah, so there are 4 main people that are board gamers. It is me and Zach Dixon and Max Anderson, who are the 3 designers on Moonrakers, and then Samuel Cowden has joined for designer on Veiled Fate. Zach and Sam are the 2 owners. The studio on its own is a core group, I think, of 9 people for the animation studio, but we have tons of contractors that work with us on a month-to-month basis as well. And so it just kind of depends on the month how big the actual studio is. And then I'm the only full-time person on the game side of things, but Zach and Max and Sam are very, very involved on a day-to-day basis, especially in the months leading up to the Kickstarter.
Gotcha. And I think, well, I guess an inevitable question at some point is, what are your favorite games? Like you personally, what are your favorite top 5 games?
So I think
excluding Moonrakers and Veiled Fate.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say those. Yeah. The game that I've played the most of during pandemic is TI4, which it seems odd because you can't really go and hang out with people, but the save feature in TTS has made it so much more approachable for me and a group of friends on the Discord channel that we run. I've also been playing a lot of my favorite game of all time that I've played the most is probably Star Wars Rebellion. I'm
Nice.
huge Star Wars nerd, and that game really scratches the itch for me of feeling like I'm controlling a fleet in the Star Wars universe. So I love that game. But Tortuga is actually one of my really fun games, one of my favorite games to play with a mixed group, like a not a heavy gamer group.
Sure.
And there's definitely some influence of that in Veiled Fate, as far as, you know, it's a social deduction game, but that's more of a classic social deduction game. This we would call is a strategic deduction game, which a lot of the game and how you win is based on strategy. So yeah, but.
Gotcha. It's interesting. So, like, I mean, I don't think I've played Tortuga. The others, well, TI4 I have on my shelf. Star Wars Rebellion I played, a great game, long time ago. But yeah, interesting. So for let's take Veiled Fate. So, and I'm going to touch upon different things here: Veiled Fate, Moonrakers, the Kickstarter shortly, all that stuff. But
sure,
starting with Veiled Fate and coming off your reference to Tortuga, if you're trying to figure out who the target audience for Veiled Fate is, in terms of, let's say, if you've played X, X, and X, however many you want to add, if you've played these many games or these specific games, then Veiled Fate is for you.
You know, I can answer that question so well for Moonrakers, and it's hard to answer.
Well, I was going to follow
Fate.
it up for Moonrakers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll try with Veiled Fate. I have not played two games that people say it is fairly similar to.
Okay.
And they say fairly very loosely. So A War of Whispers is similar in the fact that you're rooting for something on the board to win, and you're not really sure who that is as the other players.
Sure.
I think the major changes there is you can change your allegiances, and the actual gameplay itself is very different. And so people have called that out. I backed their new Kickstarter, but I haven't played it yet.
Same
so
exact.
I'm really looking forward to playing it. I don't think they're overly similar, but I think if they have the same feeling, I'm really going to like it. And then The Name of the Rose is, I think, the second one. I also haven't played that game. I think it's a little bit less mainstream. And I've heard that it has similar mechanics to this. It's, for me, as far as like the games you've played, it's more going to be feelings. So if you are a person that likes the idea of social deduction, but if your family makes you play Mafia one more time, you're going to run out of there. This is a game that hits the strategic itch, and you can really control the board with really high IQ plays. But there's also an element of I'm hiding and I'm trying to figure out who other people are. It's like a strategic board gamer's social deduction game. It's not a social deduction game because you don't win based on figuring. Yeah, you don't need to know. You can win without knowing that, but it will help you win if other people don't know who you are and you know who everyone else is.
Makes sense.
It's
for me,
a balancing act.
The one I compared it most to, because I haven't played either of the other two, but I've played a game called Clans back in the day that had that exact same aspect there. Someone could win, meaning the player who had the most points could be none of the players at the table, which I always found fascinating to watch that play out. And then someone else would obviously inevitably win nonetheless, but it was very interesting. And I always, what intrigued me about Veiled Fate is I always liked Clans a lot. I thought Clans was an excellent concept with a weak game behind the concept. And so I was my whole interest in Veiled Fate is, okay, well, maybe this will be the same concept but with a better game behind it. But that to me was the main intrigue. And so going to Moonrakers, you mentioned you can answer that question very easily for Moonrakers. How would you answer it for Moonrakers?
Yeah, so I often answer it by calling it a mashup of like Cosmic Encounter and Dominion. And there's other games in there for sure. Okay. But you have the like short-term negotiation of Cosmic, and then the actual like play style and doing action trees and playing cards of Dominion. And so it's a nice little marriage of those two games.
Because Moonrakers has been fascinating. Moonrakers is one that has been getting a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, almost as much now as when the Kickstarter actually went on. I mean, Moonrakers did 409,000, 6,300 backers for what is effectively a first-time Kickstarter, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect?
We were blown away.
So you were blown away.
We had no idea.
What would a success have been for you? Like, what were you're walking in? You're walking in not as the interesting that changes the whole dynamic, the whole paradigm is you're not walking in as somebody off the streets. You're like an established company, which a lot of people don't necessarily always get it, but that means you have a different bar. Your bar isn't success just on its own. It's compared to other initiatives we can invest in.
Totally. And that's a great way to put it, because that was almost 2 years of my time that normally would have been out meeting with ad agencies and bringing in money. And so for us to invest that much, we needed it to do well in order to keep making games. It was an experiment. Like, if this doesn't do well, Austin does something else with his time. And so I, for one, am thrilled that it did 409,000
So
because
you
I
can
got to keep
continue.
making games as my, yeah, I could keep making games. I think success would have been not losing money. And we did an episode about that on a game, a show called IV Games Weekly, just about, the money around Moonrakers and how much we spent getting it there. I don't know what that break even point would be just off the top of my head, but it is something that Moonraker games, it's just really expensive to make a game.
Yeah.
And so, under $100,000 on that campaign, we would have delivered, but we probably wouldn't have made any money and probably would have lost money. And so it's truly wonderful for us where we had no idea what it was going to do, and to hit that 400,000 mark, and especially on 6,500 backers, that's a lot of backers for a first time game. That really
100%.
blew us away.
I was very impressed. I mean, like, for me, because the way I look at Kickstarters very often is I'm interested by everything. Everything's new, everything's shiny. But the sad truth and reality is that there are a lot of games coming out every year, and it's unlikely that every single one will be as good as they look or as good as the hype and the promise. And so I often look at Kickstarters as, okay, great, will this thing hold its value? If it's not for me, it might even be a great game, but if it's not for me, can I turn around and sell it? And I passed on Moonrakers because you're a first-time studio producing a fairly expensive deck builder, and I was like, I just don't see the market supporting this. And I would have been wrong, because it has been. And so, I mean, and speaking of that, that's actually a good segue to the concept of both Veiled Fate and Moonrakers are clearly very premium products, but they're expensive and they're premium. Like, what's the whole approach there? Like, are you specifically trying for a certain niche?
Totally.
Is it just what it is? Like, how do you view that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for us, number one, the gameplay has to be there. And when we think about the game that we want to play, like the type of games we want to play, that's also the type of game we're obviously trying to make. And so once the gameplay is there, we then want the aesthetics and the feel of everything to be as premium as we think that the gameplay is. So as a studio, as a design studio, we really care about how things look after they're good as far as mechanics go, or after they're great as far as mechanics go. So for us, when we're pricing things out for production and when we're making plans for our prototypes, we're investing really heavily in the black core cards that are, linen finished. And that's like the top grade that Panda, our manufacturer, stocks, because, it's just almost poker grade cards at that point. And that's what Moonrakers was. And when those games delivered, everyone was like, oh my gosh, like this is just far above the cards that we play with in other games. And that for us was just like so validating that, like, okay, it was worth it to invest the money in the tactile experience of the game, as well as the gameplay of the game. And so when we went and approached Veiled Fate, approached it the same way and knew we had those fans behind us to support us in back day one, to really launch it and to trust in us to follow through on the money, because it is a lot of money to invest in a board game that you're not sure if it's fun yet. And the community was like, you guys have to release this TTS mod so we know if it's fun. So we ended up, we released that yesterday, I think, because, I mean, it makes sense. They're investing a lot of money. They need to be able to play it. But for us, it was definitely something that we make the game that we really want to play. And that is a premium level. And we're not trying to gatekeep. We just want everyone to have that great experience of playing our games. But if you want me to segue into our new pledge level, I could talk about that decision.
Yeah, we could. Which is, I mean, that is a great segue, which is I have a whole bunch of questions about the pledge level, which is, first of all, aside from the obviousness of, okay, great, you have, and don't get me wrong, it's one of those things, because this is not a Kickstarter that was, diverting its goals and everything because it wasn't succeeding. But anything from, you guys said 300,000 day one, maybe even more. I don't remember exactly. You're on track to go past your last Kickstarter. Everything is incredibly, you have a huge, incredibly popular fan base. One of the things I mentioned, I can't remember who I said it to, but my comment section has been fascinating around that video I did, because usually it's very obvious when a company has the support of people or not. In your case, the amount of people defending this game, like, it's premium, it's incredible. If you've seen Moonrakers, you wouldn't even be asking these questions. And then on the other hand, I have people being like, pass, way too expensive for what it is. It was really an interesting dichotomy. But then you guys, so you jumped into this new pledge level, which was obviously prompted by to a certain extent by community feedback. But what was the tipping point for you? Like, was it what made that decision final?
Yeah, I think for us, just listening to a bunch of different people that were not already in our fan base. Because you're right, we've been blessed with just this amazing group of people that really loved Moonrakers and are excited for the next thing we're coming out with. And that's just a huge asset, and we can't thank them enough. But if you haven't touched Moonrakers, we did a really bad job this time explaining the quality of the components. it just wasn't really on the page. Like you didn't know that the cards were black Cortland finish, 310 GSM, all this other stuff that most people don't know what that means anyway.
I was gonna say, to be frank, I saw your update.
Yeah.
That's like another question I have. But like, what is that? What does that even mean? Okay, but it's 310 GSM professional grade black core. Congratulations, you've explained it to me. I'm like, I got nothing. It's good. It's good.
That's so true. I'll touch on that in a second. But that was the first step of like explaining the quality and why, because there are people that do understand that and are really deep in the hobby and do care about that. But the next part of it is that we were hearing like, one, I either can't afford this pledge level or I'm not valuing this pledge level the same way you are. Like, I haven't experienced your game. I don't know that I want to invest in a premium version of your game because I haven't had the chance to play it. And let's just be frank, not everyone has TTS or wants to play on TTS, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just, oh, well, you can play it, go play on TTS, and that'll fix the problem. That doesn't fix the problem. And so for us, with our first commitment to gameplay and then our commitment to quality components, and then I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, I want to mention it now, is like our main goal is conversations around the table and games where you have to pay attention to what's going on. You're not just sitting there waiting for your turn. In Moonrakers, you're having to negotiate and you're having to work with other players.
Sure.
In Failed Fate, you're having to pay attention to who's doing what. And if our quality, like premium component grade, is keeping people from that, and they're not going to ever play it because they're not going to get a chance to know if they want to invest in that higher premium grade, then we've created a barrier to entry that we didn't intend to. And so for us, we looked at the game and we were like, okay, where can we cut back on some premium components without having to change molds? Because as soon as you change a mold, you're paying double what you would be to make two separate games. But we were able to change the card quality and the board quality and the box quality in order to make some savings. And the game won't feel as good, but will still be a great quality game. It's not going to be like, the Monopoly money that bends and is trashed by the second time you play it. But Veiled Fate being the 2 to 8 player game and the time length and the complexity level is a game that'll make it to the table a lot. And so for us, when we were thinking about components, we went premium because we wanted it to last and wanted it to be amazing. And this game version, the light game version that we added, will do that. It won't have some of the fun things like this first player token. It will have a cardboard version of it and stuff. But there's a lot of people that don't care about those things as much as us as a design studio care about them. And like you said, like we were doing great, but we thought the backer numbers, like financially we're doing great, but we really wanted more people to be involved and to grow with us and to understand our games as a company and grow with us as we keep making games. And that was a big decision in including more people and adding in that light version.
Yeah, and I can validate that. And this isn't the question. This is because, well, you're biased to answer the question. But I mean, just in terms of the math, for anyone watching, in terms of the math, let's just go through the basic math here. As of right now, you guys have roughly 100 backers at that new tier, meaning you have to manage the full production sequence for currently what's 100 people. Hopefully it grows, we'll see, but you're managing a whole new production sequence, so quality control, everything else, SKU numbers, everything else around 100 people. Additionally, part of replacements, oh my gosh, another one. Yeah, okay. Just give them the higher tier, it'll be cheaper. But additionally, you gave, as part of that pledge, you gave a $10 credit to everyone at the Make It Metal tier, to make everyone feel like, again, you weren't facing huge amounts of like backlash, whatever. It was just more of inclusive, giving everyone a $10 credit to people who weren't even asking or complaining at 1,100 people at that tier is $11,000 you literally just gave away. The amount of pledges you have to get at that lower tier just to recoup what you just did to bring more people in the door. I mean, either you're counting on getting like 1,000 new backers because of this lower tier, which I think would be ambitious. That'd be great. Or you literally just wanted more people around the table, more people on the IV games train, so to speak. So like I can just from a sheer math point. And by the way, many people I wouldn't necessarily assume have gone through the math. You guys bring enough to the table that I assume you have. So maybe I'm wrong, but I assume you have.
Yeah. No, that Sam on our team, he's the executive producer, was running numbers for a few days while we were trying to decide, all right, what's this new pledge level going to look like? What does it do to the other pledge levels? And how do we make sure that we're conveying our appreciation for the other pledge levels? And so, yes, it definitely was a lot of math trying to figure out everything. But yeah, and add that to the EU VAT laws. I don't know if you saw that change, but
I didn't actually.
They announced that the UK stuff is going in effect January 1, but the UK stuff or the EU stuff is not going in until July. And so suddenly we had a little bit more money to play with because we were going to be splitting that there with people. And so that helped us too, and hopefully got us more
Interesting.
European backers because they don't have to pay 10% VAT now. So there was a lot of weird math stuff in the middle of this campaign that we didn't have to do for Moonrakers.
That's awesome.
But
I mean, the whole
it's been
VAT
great,
thing's
and
insane. Yeah.
oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah, it's hard.
It's and like that's not like it's a whole conversation of itself. Like every backer feels like they're being not every many backers feel like they are being cheated by these companies who have to charge VAT, and they don't understand like the laws are literally changing on a regular basis. The fact that VAT always had to be in place is true, but who the enforcement of it and where that enforcement takes place at what level is it being taking place? You legally have to. Is it the pledge manager, the companies, the hubs, or whatever? Is it the company themselves? The laws of the whens, the hows, the how much, they're constantly being changed, and it's a tax on international shipping. It's not a tax on. It's not like the company's not making more money off of you. It's the other way around.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's wild. I did not understand how much goes into making a game before making Moonrakers. It was quite eye opening as the person managing it all. So
yeah, it's absolutely like even like the SKU counts in general. Something people don't. I regularly see this on many campaigns of people saying, "Well, just do this, just add standees, just do this, just do that," as if there's simple options, not understanding that there are always a huge amount of costs involved every single time you open up the door to a new option.
Just the barcodes are very expensive per year.
How much are the barcodes? I don't actually know the one.
That's a good question. Oh man, how much is our barcode budget? All right, so Moonrakers was 9 barcodes, and it's not wild. It's like below $1,000, I think, per year for that.
Okay,
but we have 9 barcodes. Yeah, it's ongoing.
Cool. I thought I knew stuff. Apparently I'm learning something on this call. A little embarrassing, but I'll take it.
Well, I hope someone doesn't correct me and they're like, wow, Austin didn't sleep well last night because he's remembering this completely wrong, which is possible. But for Veiled Fate, we have all of the Moonrakers SKUs that we have to use again because we're selling all of that in the Pledge Manager if people want it. And then we have 4 different pledge levels and more add-ons than we had in Moonrakers. I think we're probably up in the 20s as far as barcodes and SKUs go now. So yeah, it's wild.
Cool. So how many people are buying that wooden board?
More than we thought.
It looks very premium.
Yeah, we did that because we wanted a wooden board, and then we were like, well, why don't we just offer it as an option? And it's been something we're still exploring. We actually have an announcement coming out about that early next week. We currently have 2 versions that are on the website, a white oak and a walnut. I think it's walnut, the darker one. I'll probably get corrected in chat.
I want to know how many people buy both. That's what I'm most intrigued by.
All right. That will be like maybe 1, and it might be my mom.
It's going to be more than 1. It's going to be more than 1. People get either way. Go ahead. So you're saying?
I think we're above 100 for sure as far as people that have bought the board. And I'm not quite sure where we'll fall in the end. My favorite part about it, though, is the magnets. I sit here and I play with the magnet pieces because it all the sections, there's 8 sections and there's 1 in the middle. So the 7 sections just pop off and pop right back on to these magnets. And I'm having a blast with that. I'll do that while we play and people are like, stop. But it does feel that motion feels really nice. We had a lot of people ask, can you hang it on the wall? And the magnets are not strong enough to hang it on the wall. It's definitely for a table, but there's someone that's going to come out with something that will easily help it hang on the wall.
100%. So, anyone who tries hanging a crokinole board on the wall, it's probably the same basic kit. But yeah,
probably. Yep.
So as far as that pledge level, I mean, so I've been monitoring the comments a bit, but like overall, how has the reception been? Like in terms of whatever channels you're monitoring, whatever comments, your own external, like how has the reception been?
We've been blown away because some of the people that were coming to our comments and had the most questions and honestly, in some cases, the most complaints kind of just flipped completely to being some of our biggest supporters because, and that really surprised us where, they were saying, hey, like, I'm really interested in this game, but like, I am not a premium version person. Like, I don't buy the premium version. I might buy the premium version for my favorite game of all time, but like, why invest in it if I'm not, sold on the game yet? And suddenly they went from that to, hey, I've been interested in this game from the beginning. The only thing I had a problem with is I couldn't get in at a level that I was comfortable with. And so that change really turned our comment section around. And we had tons of support from those upper levels and those people saying, hey, it's worth it. It's worth it. And those people didn't go away. And suddenly these people are also our fans and are supporting us. And so we've been really surprised and excited about the way it's changed the communication in our in
Yeah,
our
and I've been
campaign.
monitoring your numbers. I mean, every single one of your pledge levels is still up, so you're not really seeing a giant shift from your current pledge levels.
Yeah.
On Kick Track, you're still trending in the right direction. You got a major jump when you made the announcement, and you're still trending the right
Yep.
way. So like overall, it's and also the big thing as well. Even if you don't have everyone taking it up, you've taken away a lot of the complaints, whether people choose to or not. And something that's
Yeah.
also worth mentioning is just because of the way you put out the announcement, it's worth doubling down on the fact that not doubling, mentioning or focusing on the fact that this cheaper pledge, at least from my understanding, still seems to be above industry average. It's not that you sat there and said, "Hey, we're going to make this subpar game." You're still choosing
Yeah.
things that are more expensive than the norm, just not as
Yeah.
expensive as what you otherwise were doing.
Yeah. For us, we weren't willing to risk
The
the name
brand.
we've made for ourselves, the brand, as like we make really high quality games just to try to bring more people into the fold. Even though that was a major goal, we always want people's interactions with our games to feel premium. And so, yes, the upper versions are going to feel much more premium, but the game that you get at the $49 level is not going to feel like trash. It's going to feel good still. It's going to feel great still. So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so moving on from there, and I don't really have that much more to cover, but what other games are you working on, or how many? If you can't tell me what,
Oh
how
man.
many other games are you working on?
Whew. Oh, that's a good question. So as a studio, we have a few different designers, and a couple of the designers have games they are currently working on. Whether they become the next IV game is still yet to be seen because kind of the other designers have to be sold.
Sure.
So I have a game that I've been working on that's I really like genre bending. I like coming up with a game that crosses two genres.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I'm working on something that might be a little bit of a quasi worker placement game, but it's still very, very early. As far as a studio, we're talking about doing some different ideas. Maybe the next campaign will be board game adjacent, but won't be a board game. And so we have a bunch of different ideas floating around as far as what that might be. I'm very much into RPGs. I DM a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So something in that might be in our future. I want to start a show on our channel. We do a channel called IV Games Weekly. We're hoping to add some live plays to that of games, and then also a live RPG would be really fun for me. So we're definitely working on a bunch of different things, but sadly, nothing I can announce a title for or anything like
I'm
that
cool.
yet.
I just like to know things are happening. And speaking of RPG, so speaking of RPG, I know you invited Quackalope down for an RPG. And once we're talking
Yeah.
about Quackalope, what happens if you don't hit $1 million? Hopefully you do.
Oh,
What happens if you don't?
so if we don't,
You could say
there,
you could decline to answer. That's allowed.
yeah, no, I can. There are other pathways to make that happen, and that we are considering. We will for sure make it at $1 million, but it is not the only way that we make it.
Cool.
And I think that's all I'm probably allowed to say.
Allowed to say right now, because
At
I mean,
this
you guys are
point.
doing
Yeah.
again. You guys are doing very well. At the same time, $1
Yeah.
million is a ambitious goal.
It's a long ways off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long ways
I mean,
off for sure. We'd have to
AEG
have.
just hit $1 million with Dead Reckoning, and they've been in this business for who knows how long, and their first campaign to
Oh
cross
yeah.
$1 million was Dead Reckoning, and that's you guys are like
Yeah.
second Kickstarter $1 million, let's do it.
Which, by the way, Dead Reckoning might be my number one most anticipated game
I
of next
love
year.
that game. Don't okay, well
I'm so excited about it. Yeah, we'll table that.
yeah
I'm very excited about Dead Reckoning. Yes, so for us, $1 million was always pie in the sky. Like,
yeah
would be amazing if we hit it, but like not like, oh, we're gonna hit this, everything's fine. Like we're this great company, and that wasn't it at all. It
sure
was just
sure
that would be amazing if we could do it. I think we would have to have as big of a first day for our last days, and I don't think that's quite possible because those were all our Moonrakers fans that
Yeah.
we had already been working with, and they knew who we were for a long time. So I doubt that we'll have a day that big for the last 2 days.
sure.
We'll
I think you'll get close, but I mean, close is a relative term. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, close is a relative term. In fact, we have a game in our Discord. We do it every campaign, both campaigns, where people have to guess the final number 3 days out. And if they do this year, they get a set of our Moonrakers hematite dice and a large Agamar mini. So if anyone wants to join our Discord to get in on that, yeah.
So I'll include a link to you. If you send me a link to your Discord, I'll include it down below
Yeah,
for
I'll
this
send
video.
Yeah.
How precise do they have to be? Down to $1, down to $5?
I don't know. It's Price is Right rules. They just have to be before the next person.
Gotcha. So it's the closest.
Starts.
Got it.
But there is a limit. Yeah, I think you can't guess within like $1,000 of the next person or something like that. I'm not running the contest this year. We have a mod that is running it for us, but Thanks, Emirates. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that is. It was really close last year. Like it was down to the wire on who was going to win because there was one at like 399, 400, 405, like 410, and it was like right in there. So that's always fun
Nice.
to see what happens. But
Very cool.
we're actually
Go
we're
ahead.
ending the campaign on Halloween, and I want to do a live stream where we dress up, but I don't think I can talk the other guys into it. But we will see.
You can be the only one dressed up, and the rest of them can just show up.
If
It
we want
works.
to dress up.
So that's basically everything on my end. Is there anything you want to mention, say, tell people, back the game?
I mean, I just want to thank you for number one doing the first video because that was really even helpful for us to see like a really rational take on where the campaign was and just the perceptions that we don't get as the people making the game. So one, thank you so much for the content that you create. It's really excellent, and you obviously have a really great fan base that appreciates your perspective as well. And yeah, second, yeah, the game's live on TTS. The game's live on Kickstarter. You can play it there. You can check it out on the campaign, whatever you want to do. We're launching a 2-player video, I think, Saturday. So
Didn't
a
you
lot of
already
people
do
have been
one?
wondering about the 2-player count.
I thought you already did a 2-player version, a 2-player game with what's his name with
Maybe not.
no with Spotlight board game.
I think
Spotlight.
we did 3.
That was 3.
Oh, we did 3. Yeah, it was 3.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, we
I
did
thought
3.
James Hudson was a
So
2-player. Okay, good to know.
it at 2 players. If both players are experienced, I think it's my second favorite game mode after 7.
Whoa,
And that's a hot take.
Okay, so in a sense, this is. I mean, I thought I was done, but I'm not done apparently. So this game is rated between what, 2 and 7, 2 and 8,
It's 2 and 8.
2
Yeah.
and 8. What is your recommended player count, and what is your best player count?
Yeah. All right. If it is your first game, play between 3 and 5
Okay,
because everyone needs to have a rough understanding of what the game is like before playing a partner game.
sure.
After that, my favorite player count is 6 to 7. 8's a little bit too muddy, but there are not a lot of games that play well at 8, and it definitely plays well at 8. It's just not my favorite player count.
Sure.
7 has the most unknowns because at 7 there are 3 teams of 2 and 1 person alone. So not only are you trying to figure out who everyone else is, you're trying to figure out who your teammate is, or if you even have a teammate, because you might be that person that is alone. It is quite wild.
Okay.
The person who is alone gets an extra point at the end of the game. And in Veiled Fate, that's like getting 2 extra points because when you enter a new score track, you move to the front of the line. So not only are you moving to the next track, you're going to the front of that track. And so I am surprised during our testing how many times the 7th person, the person alone, won the game. It was at least a third, which is pretty solid considering there's 4 teams essentially
100%.
playing. And then at 2 players is another thing I'd only recommend playing after you've played 1 or 2 games with the 3 to 4 players because it is harder to hide. There's one person laser focused on you that is completely paying attention to you.
Yeah.
And if the one person just decides to blitz, not hide at all, and just go for it, you have to know how to counteract that. And so you probably should have played at least 1 or 2 games before doing that. Gotcha. However, in our game, I played terribly in our game, by the way, that we're about to release, and I still had a blast and was really thrown off by the fact that I was wrong about the player's character at the end. And it's definitely, it scratches the social deduction itch for me, but it's got that 1 player and it's a strategy game. So 1 other player.
Cool.
Game. So yeah, solo mode does not work.
Solo mode does not work. And so I guess the last question is, what is your favorite, I know this is not social deduction, it's strategic deduction. What is your favorite deduction game aside from Veil of Fate?
Tortuga. Yeah,
Tortuga.
it's Tortuga.
Tortuga, you
sure.
mentioned. Yeah. I haven't played that one.
And that kind of is similar where you don't have to know who everyone is. You just have to have the most treasure on your side at the end of the game. And that might be one of the only other games that's like, well, not the only other game. There are a lot of other games, but the strategic deduction fits really well with that title specifically. Yeah, but Tortuga is great.
Awesome. Austin, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. To everyone else, Austin, myself, I'm Alex from BoardGameCo. I usually have this whole, I've never really gotten down my whole exit when I'm doing another person because it's like, it's more confusing. But Austin, thank you for joining us. To everyone else, I am Alex Radical from BoardGameCo, and I hope you have a good one.